We talked about the S-curve. You remember the economics of the S-curve? We talked about that, where this is the number of people that utilize a product or service, and this represents time, how long it takes for the masses. And what happens is there's an introduction phase, there's a growth phase, there's a maturity and a decline phase, and all business and products go through this. And what's important to know about this is how many consumers are naturally looking to purchase what it is you have. And there's only 2 times on this curve. We said that when it hits 10%, when the 10% mark hits, that's called Morgan's Law. This is an economic principle, and that's when the masses start wanting something. And there has to be certain criteria involved for it to hit 10%. Not all products and services hit 10%. Some of them fade away and die. And then some of them get taken over by other businesses and companies. And chiropractic's in that phase right now, because we're not going into the masses. Guess what the number one legal thing going on today is? We're fighting the other health professions to get them to stop doing what we do. You see? That's the number one. We just talked to the president of the ACA 2 weeks ago, and that's what he just told us. That is the number one legal battle. So, 10%, the masses start utilizing it, and then it plateaus because there's nobody else to go to. And this is where people go, either get eaten up or go bankrupt, go out of business. And then you have to start competing with price, service, and quality, and you end up with what's called the law of duality, 2 major players. And I use the example Burger King, McDonald's, Walmart, Kmart. There's other little players, but ends up 2 players. And so this whole cycle starts back over in a virgin territory. And that's what happens. The whole cycle starts. So this is the economic cycle. And there is a formula to get chiropractic from here to here, here to here, here to here. There is. I read it. I'm doing a paper on it right now. I'm like, how come nobody has ever, in our leaders in our profession, have not? This applies to all products and services. How come they haven't learned this from other people and applied it to chiropractic? And just followed the formula to get it into the masses. Does this make sense? So, what happens is, you don't have to worry about learning anything in business if you are in one of 2 categories. Number one, you're the only player in this small category right here. In other words, there's a small amount of people. We said chiropractic, what is the percent of utilization with chiropractic? 6.32. This was in dynamic chiropractic. It was right around 6.32 about 8 months ago. And it's been that way for decades. Decades. And so we talked about how that if you're the only player, in other words, there's a small amount of people that are looking for a provider, and you're the only one providing that service, don't worry about sales and marketing. You'll get the business because you're the only person they're going to go to. You're the only person they can go to. Okay? So, does that exist in chiropractic? No. There's not many places where there's not a chiropractor. Okay? Then you're dealing with a small number. So when you leave, you're going to have to take this share from another chiropractor, the person sitting on your left or your right, unless you know how to come over here to this huge, massive amount of people, 94% right here. And 3 out of 4 of them have low back pain, neck pain, or headaches to some degree. In other words, they have a what? A need for what you primarily help and deliver. Okay? But it's incongruent how you get to them and the message that we give them. It's incongruent. So what happens is, if you're the only player here, you'll get that small amount of business. Or if the product or service industry is on the upslope, in other words, more people are now wanting that product or service, then the demand will come to you also. Now, does that apply to chiropractic today? No, it hasn't happened, and there's not showing any significant improvement toward that. That's the bad news. Now, the good news is you have this huge amount of people right here that all you people don't know how to touch. You set up right next to me, you're only going to be able to go after these 6%ers who are actively looking for a chiropractor. And you don't even know the marketing concepts to get any of them. I'm going to show you some marketing concepts tonight. So you set up next to me. Do I worry? No. My marketing will get me more of these than you'll get, but I don't even care. I like give them to you. I don't care. Because I know how to come over here into this huge pond over here where this massive amount of people are, and 3 out of 4 of them have low back pain, neck pains, and I know how to get them as a patient. I know how to get them to stay, pay, and refer. That's what I know how to do. And you will be totally irrelevant in my life. So, any questions about this? Does this make sense? So what is the only hope for you if you don't buy an existing business and you go out on your own? Here's your only hope. If your knowledge and skill does not change, if it stays in unconscious incompetence, this is your only hope. That I'm wrong. That 6% of the people actually represents more than what I'm telling you. Good luck. It's your life you're gambling on. And you actually think that it's going to increase in the next 6 months when you open your practice. However, it hasn't for the last 100 years. But it will when you open your practice. Good luck. Okay? So, this is really what we're looking at. So what does this mean? What does this mean? Okay. We talked about the 7 components of a business: the executive, the financial, human resources, quality, service, technical, and sales and marketing. Every business has this. When you go out on your own and start your business, you're going to have to know every one of these components. You're going to have to do them all. And then if you hire somebody, then you can start delegating some of them. But you're going to have to cut your own bills. You're going to have to be the CEO. You're going to have to give the vision of where you're going. You're going to have to be the president. You're going to have to check day-to-day operations. You're going to have to be the head of accounting. You're going to have to be able to pay the bills, taxes, and all the financial issues. You're going to have to know how to hire, fire, and train. That's what you're going to have to know how to do. Deal with quality or service issues. Technical, you should know those anyway, because that's what you're learning at the school, is how to be a chiropractor. And then you're going to have to learn all the sales and marketing. By the way, what I talked about today, that process I talked about today was called sales. Okay? We're going to go into that a little more tonight. What is the difference between sales and marketing in the marketplace? And that's what I was trying to show you. There's only 4 ways for you to make revenue in your business. Remember those 4 ways? Number 1 was, by the way, it's no different than you, Walmart, McDonald's, Kmart, IBM, Microsoft. This is exactly what they have to do also. Who's been in business here before? Anybody? Anybody else? So, you have to get new business. In chiropractic, that's new patients. Number 2, you have to be able to increase the retention or how often they buy from you. The frequency of the purchase. See, when McDonald's has you come to McDonald's, you think they never want to see you again? They put that playland there on purpose to bring little Johnny back. Okay? That's called retention, more purchases. Number 3 is you're going to have to deal with cost. What are you going to charge? And what are the factors relative to charging? What can you charge? What can you not charge? We're going to go into that tonight, by the way. Number 4 is decreasing your overhead. And I'll cover with you tonight also What are the major problems that you do with overhead? I'll tell you what the 3 common mistakes are for you to have high overhead. I'll go into that tonight. Okay? So today, all I tried to show you is these are the divisions of your business, whether you like it or not. This is the way it is. You can bury your head if you want. And all I was trying to show you is that decreasing your overhead, which one of these departments is decreasing your overhead? Huh? What deals with money? Financial department. What deals with what you're charging and cost control issues? That's a financial department issue. And this was what I was trying to show you today, why 11 out of 12 businesses go bankrupt. Read it. It's called the E-Myth by Gerber, Michael Gerber. 11 out of 12 businesses in the United States go bankrupt within 5 years. 80% of them within 2 years. This is why. This concept that I'm showing you is exactly why. Because the person who thinks they're going to start their cabinetry business, they think they're going to get people to buy their cabinets if they make a good cabinet. It's the biggest misconception that you think if you give a good quality and service that you will get business. And the concept that we're trying to show here is it is sales and marketing. Sales and marketing that gets business. Not the technical component. And where are you putting all your emphasis? Technical. You think if you're a good chiropractor, a good doctor. Now, you can lose business if you don't give good quality or service. Yes, definitely. But that's not what gets you business. What gets business, in other words, what makes these people right here act is a need, a perceived need. Now, after they act, that's when I told you there's 5 reasons. There's 5 components on what they will do. This is how you act as a consumer. This is what you do. The first thing you do is you have a need. If you don't have a need, are you going to buy? No. So how much sense does it make for you to try to cognitively talk somebody in the chiropractic care that doesn't even have a need? Well, do you buy when you don't have needs? What do you think about wellness care? People are totally healthy. They have no perceptual problem of a need. How much time and money do you think they're willing to spend on care? You see? That's a very, very, very small niche market, and it's middle upper class disposable income. Very small. And it's not even the chiropractic market. Those people aren't even the people that see chiropractors. So what are you basing your success on when you leave? You're hoping you're going to be a good chiropractor, and they'll hear about you. How many businesses in a 3-mile radius do you know that opened in the last 3 years? Or excuse me, in the last year? How many? In the last 1 year, how many businesses in a 1-mile radius, the professional businesses, CPA, dentist, lawyer, attorney, optometrist, podiatrist, how many in a 1-mile radius do you know opened in the last year? What makes you think they're going to know about you? Ooh. You guys are so egocentric. You think so many people are going to know about you. Well, how many do you know about them? Not one person in here raised their hand. How long have you been living here? 1 year? 2 years? 3 years? And you don't know of one business in that field that is open in a 1-mile radius. Well, let me ask you this. How about a 3-mile radius? Anybody? 1? Two.
But they're together pretty much. So.
And I'm not, wait a minute, and I'm not talking about a chiropractor.
No. These are,
Okay.
I wear places.
You're fine.
downtown.
You're fine. 1 unit, 3-mile radius, all these people, and it's probably a friend or friend of the family. Somebody personally knows. Is it?
It's the only reason I knew they were there is because I drove by and happened to see it.
Good. So it was one of those random accident kind of thing, okay? What's the only concept I'm trying to get across to you? You guys think more people are going to know about you and want what you have than the reality of the way it's going to go? What you're really getting at school now is what you're going to get wherever you go. You just don't know it. And I'm the bad guy now. And then 6 months from here, 1 year from now, guess what kind of phone call I get? I get at least one phone call a week that somebody has heard me at least 1 year ago or longer, a lecture like this. And guess what they all say? I say, were you at my lecture at that school? And guess what they say? Yes. And then I say, how come you didn't believe me? And guess what they always say? Every one of them has said. I'm going to quote. They all say the same pathetic thing. Guess what it is? No, not my program. I'm talking about what happens to them. I didn't think it was going to happen to me. So, this is how the market works. This is how it works. I am now explaining to you why businesses fail, why they succeed, specifically chiropractic. That's what I'm explaining to you. Okay? So, all we're trying to show here is that getting new business and retention is a sales and marketing issue. It is not a quality or service issue. Quality or service will lose business and won't get you business. What makes these people act? First, a need. First, they got to have a need. These people are already acting because what do they have? A need. They already have a need, so they're acting. Now, after the need is established, then they will choose from one of 5 categories, and we said number 1 was name recognition, proximity, price, quality, and service. It is this order, it is in that order in chiropractic. Now, how much name recognition are you going to have when you go out? 0. Good luck. Proximity. Why did he know about that office opening? What did he just say? He drives by it every day. Proximity. When you go buy something, one of the factors, depending on what the product or service is proximity. And we use the example of the school. How many of you fit into that example when you were thinking about going? First, when you wanted to go to chiropractic college, what did you first have to have? A need. You wanted to be a chiropractor. How important was this school if you didn't want to be a chiropractor? 0. So the first thing you have to have is a need. Number 2, when you did, what happened unconsciously in your mind? You went through your mind, you collected data and information, and these are the categories you went to. You went to, who's the big one? Usually the big one is known as the first. Palmer. Palmer gets more students just because they're number 1. It's called the law of category in marketing. You always remember first, not seconds. It's a law. Who's the first chiropractic college? Who's the second?
That's a good question.
Who's the first person to fly solo across the Atlantic? From Paris to France. Who was the second? They did it a week later. Who was the first female pilot to fly across the Atlantic? Who was the second? It's called the law of category. See, you as a consumer, you remember first, you don't remember seconds. So sometimes you'll go to first in the category. In this case, it was Palmer. If not, what was the next thing that you looked for? Proximity. Who is close to where I live? Who made these choices in here? Raise your hand if this is how you made your choices. And then what was the next thing that you went? Price was an issue for you. Why? Because you are lower socioeconomic. You're students. Price is more of an issue for middle, lower class economic people than it is for middle, upper class or upper class. The lower your economic class, the more important price is. And unless you come from a professional family background, if you come from like any other background in America, you came from middle, lower class family probably. And if you did come from that, price was more important. How many of you was price an issue in your college when you looked? When you were comparing colleges? How many? Did you not look at the prices? Now, none of this matters if this was your choice, name recognition. Why? Trust. You just have high trust. In other words, if you picked it because you were referred here, you just have high trust. And price isn't as much of an issue, or proximity is not as much of an issue. That's how it works. Same with your patients. So, does this make sense, by the way? Okay? Now, where is quality or service in chiropractic? Our patients, when they come in, guess how many questions I have had asked? When I had patients come in 12 years, and I asked them, why did you choose me? Guess how many times they said a quality or service issue? I can remember one. One. In this industry, chiropractic, this is how the consumers choose first. And these are the few people that are chosen, and they're divided by all the chiropractors in your area. And that's the market forces. That's what you get. And you're just hoping that it's going to be enough patients to pay for your bills. That's what you're hoping. So, those are the components of why, when we do choose. Does this make sense that if you think that you're going to get all these people and it's based on quality or service, you're in trouble? Can you see that? Can you see how you better know something about sales and marketing to get new business or get it to stay? And how much does sales and marketing have to do with the technical component, meaning chiropractic? Absolutely nothing. You're putting all your emphasis on the technical component. What's the real reason you go to all these seminars? These specialty seminars? To learn. Why? To get the business to make the money. Is that not why? You go to these seminars thinking that you'll be a better doctor, they'll know about me, therefore I'll get more new patients, I'll make more money. Who agrees with that? Does that make sense? Yes, that's what, okay, you with me? And we showed you how many people even know what a technique is. You're taking a special technique course, acupuncture or whatever. How many people, Gonstead, Diversified, Cox? How many people even know what it is? We played the tape for you today. Well, how many techniques do you know that the dentist has? How many do you care? Wait a minute, you're laughing. You're laughing when we apply the concept to a dentist, but what are you doing yourself? How much sense does this make? It does. Let me tell you, when I learned and studied this, I didn't bury my head in the sand. I read it and I'm on, that makes a lot of sense. And I applied it to this profession. I didn't bury my head. Thank God, or I wouldn't be here. So, there were some people that buried their head today. Because it's easier to bury your head than to listen to this message. That's easier. It is for now. 6 months from now, 1 year from now, it won't be. This is the game you will have to play. Whether you like it or not. Whether you like me or not. You see? See, I'm used to some of you students being sarcastic with me. I'm used to it. 1 year from now, you get to play my game now. You're on my field 1 year from now. You don't have student loans paying for you now. And this is the arena you're playing in. Now you're on my court. So, these are the components of the business, and this is why. So what is the number one reason that businesses fail? 11 out of 12. They think they're going to give good quality, good service, and get the business. And get new business, get it to stay, pay, or refer. That's why. And then they go under. 80% within 2 years, within 5 years, 11 out of 12. That's how it works. Okay, it does not have to be this way. It does not have to be this way. You guys just make it hard on yourself. You know too much. You're dangerous to yourself. Nobody can tell you anything. I didn't think it would be me. It should almost be Custard's last words. But I didn't think it'd be me. Doesn't have to be that way. I joke about it because it doesn't have to be that way. You guys, it really is you. It really is. And you can't see it. You can't see it. So, these are the 4 components that you have to do. I'm only talking about this one right now, which is getting new business. So here's your hope. I'm wrong. Your hope is that this small percentage of people that are actively looking for a chiropractor is going to be enough for you to make an income. And this is when I used the numbers and I showed you how many new patients you were going to have to get right here. Now, we used $150,000 today. Let's just use $100,000. If you want to make $100,000 a year, and your income and your overhead is 50%, how much money do you have to make that year? $200,000. $100,000 to go to overhead, $100,000 for you. By the way, do you know what the national average is for overhead? $14,000 a month. But don't worry, it won't be like that for you. None of this will apply to you. Don't worry about it. That's according to chiropractic economics. The ACA, it's around $12,000 a month. Okay? So, if you have $200,000, that's how much money you would need to make $100,000. What I'm trying to show you right now is how many of these people, these 6%ers, you're going to need. How many of these 6%ers are you going to need to make that money? Here's your hope. Here it goes. $200,000, you divide that by 12. That's how much money you need a month. So that's $16,666. Now you divide that by what's called a dollar per visit, the average amount of money you make in a visit. The national average is 40. So when you throw all the money in and divide it by the patient visits, it's $40. That's the national average. Is it fair to use that number? I'm just using it because it's the national average. So now that'll tell you how many patient visits that you need that month. So you divide that by 40, and it'll tell you how many patient visits you need that month to make this happen at a $40 per visit at a 50% overhead. So you need 416 patient visits that month. Now, how many new patients does that represent? Well, how do you figure that? That's the patient visits. If your patient retention, in other words, the average amount of time that they stayed when they come in, was 1, how many new patients would you need? 416. Good luck. How important is retention? How important is retention? Very important. Because if we can get these people to at least stay for 2 visits, what did we do with the number of new patients that we need? Cut it in half. What if we can get them to stay for 4 visits? Do you see? So retention is very important. But here's the bad news. Does the market want to come back to you? Remember the analogy that I showed you? That if you did go to a podiatrist, a dentist, a lawyer, a CPA, optometrist, you name it, how much money did you want to spend if you did go? How much? Little as possible. How much time do you want to spend when you do go to that office? As little as possible. And how many repeat visits are you just anxious to come back for? If that's how you are as a consumer, what makes you think that they're going to fall in love with chiropractic? You think they care about chiropractic? Do you think, well, let me ask you this. Do you care about dentistry? No. That's right. Only when you have a need. And if the dentist can't fill the need, what do you care about the dentist? You don't. Do those people out there care about chiropractic? No. They care about their problems. Now, if chiropractic can solve their problem, they'll care. If chiropractic can't solve their problem, they don't care. Just like you. Do you care about optometry? No. Unless you need glasses. Then you care. Now, what if the optometrist can't take care of your problem with glasses? Do you now care about optometry? No. See, the population doesn't care about chiropractic. They care about you taking care of their problem. If it's under the banner of chiropractic, good for you. Good for you. How much sense does this make, by the way? You got to remember, I was a chiropractic student. They fooled me too. All the junk that you're hearing, I heard 20 years ago. 1984 to 1987. All that subluxation, wellness care, blah, 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 blah. 20 years ago I heard that. It's the same thing they're saying today they did 20 years ago. Oh yeah, it's really making a dent in the people utilizing chiropractic. So, here's the point that we were making. If 6%, here's your key. If you want to make $100,000 a year, you need $200,000. Divide that out. How many patient visits is that? It's 416. How many new patients is that? You divide that by your retention. We got a problem. How long do they want to stay? Well, how many repeat visits do you want to go to the podiatrist, the dentist, the CPA, or the optometrist? 0. And guess what they're going to want from you? When they show up in your office, guess what they're going to want in the first visit? Everything. And how much money are they going to want to spend for you to fix everything on the first visit? And guess how much time they want you to do it in? And guess who else acts like that? You do. You do. It's called market forces. This is how you are as a consumer. But you think, by some miracle, you'll just educate them on chiropractic. Well, you've been educated on cleaning your teeth by the American Dental Association. All of you guys know to get your teeth cleaned every 6 months. Out of this room of however many people in here, 30, how many get your teeth cleaned every 6 months? 3, 4, 5, 6? 6 people out of 30. And you're the highest educated people. What does that say about the medium educated and the low educated masses? Good luck. Good luck. Okay? It's time we start hearing what they really want. It's time we start delivering what they really want, not what we want to force on them. That's what it's time for. It's time to start taking care of people's problems instead of pushing what we want on them. That's when this number will go up. That's when it'll go up. Until then. So, we're talking about to make $100,000 a year, 50% overhead, $200,000 gross collections, $16,000 a month in collections. Divide that by $40 per visit. 416 patient visits, which you need a retention. What's your retention going to be? They're not going to want to give you much because when you go somewhere, you don't want to go back very much. So what is a number you can use? 8 to 12 visits. When somebody comes in and they have a problem, what is the average amount of time they will stay? 8 to 12 visits. Take 416, divide it by 12. The average number of visits somebody will stay, 34 new patients. Here is your only hope to make the income you want to make. That this, if you don't know any of this other stuff, that this 6% will be 34 new patients a month. Is it working for you now? But it'll work for you somewhere else. Oh, yeah, well, it's just this area. Don't worry about it. When you go back to your area, those people are totally different. They will listen to you. They will do what you tell them. They will know about you. Do you see how ridiculous this is? When you came into school, you were normal. You were. You were. After 3 to 4 years of you talking to each other, it's okay, isn't it? Yeah, it's okay. This is great, isn't it? Yeah, this is great. Isn't it wonderful? It's wonderful. That's what happens. Every day, for 3 to 4 years, 4 years later, you're whacked. And so you come out with all these ideas and perceptions and all these paradigm shifts. And you try to be everything to everybody. Well, how well is it working now? If it's working, get up and leave. You don't need to be here. Go on. If your system is so good now, go do it. Right? Does that not make sense? If you're satisfied with the results you're getting right now, leave. Bottom line. Bottom line. You know, I wish somebody talked to me like this when I was in Tri-8. I wish somebody came to me and said, I want you to be aware of something else. That you can actually look into something else and do well. Instead of suffering the way I suffered when I got out of school. So, this is what your hope is. That's your hope. Unless you know something about marketing. Meaning, you can get more of the 6%ers than your neighbor. We'll go into some marketing concepts. Is that really where the gold's at? Nah. You can get a few more here, but that's not really where it's at. Now, besides that, you're going to have to know some of these other concepts. Because even when you get them, how long do they want to stay? They don't. How hard is it to change somebody's value system? But you think you can educate them and do it in 10 minutes? It is very difficult to change somebody's value system, to get them to stay past what they naturally and normally wouldn't do. Look at you guys. You're the top 7% educated in the nation. 7% of the people have a doctorate degree. And how many of you are going to see a dentist even though you know it's good to get your teeth cleaned every 6 months? Less than what? 15% of you? 20% of you? You're the top 7% and less than 20% of you. How well did that work on you? And that program has been, you've been educated, that program's been around since the 50s. The ADA came out with that program in the 50s. How well is it working on you? If it's not working on you, the highest educated, at that low percentage, what makes you think that you, in your world of wisdom, are going to be able to convince that person to stay with you for care? Here's the deal. What you're getting right now in school, that's what's going to happen when you leave. How you're communicating and talking to your people, because you're trying to get them to stay for corrective care and all that, aren't you? Maintenance care and telling about wellness care and all that. Yeah. How well is that working? If it's working, keep doing it. Leave. How well is it working? I'm not talking about the hand-me-downs. You know the patients you get in school, the rubby-dubbies? Been around since the 50s and 60s, you know? They come in there for their weekly massage. That's not what I'm talking about. I know what goes on in there. I was in there. I was in there, that Tri-8 student with my clinic jacket on, doing the rub me down for the once-a-week 80-year-old patient that just really wants a massage. And they want a student to pay attention to them and work on them for 30 minutes. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And you start to wonder, is this what I'm headed for? Does that happen to anybody here? But you keep doing the rubby-dubby. Why? Because you need the numbers, baby. That's not chiropractic. The good news is that's not chiropractic. You just haven't learned it yet. That's all. Okay. Look at your regular patients. If you did get any patients to come in, how long do they naturally stay? Have any of you guys got any patients to come in? Anybody?
Come in on the better one, have them come in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. How long do they stay?
About a month.
Okay. How many
And then
visits?
About maybe 1 a week and plus
So how many visits is that?
4, sometimes less than that.
So what's the retention? 4. So in this case, if you wanted to make $100,000, you needed 4 what? 17 patient visits? 416? 416? Oh, that'd make a big difference. Now he's safe. Divide that by 4. That's how many new patients you're going to need a month to make $100,000 a year. 104. How many is that a week? 26. How many is that a day? 5.2. How well is it working? How well is your system working? It doesn't. It doesn't work. Does this make sense, by the way?
Yeah.
Hey, we're all chiropractors here. We're all chiropractors. I'm not on the other side. I'm here because of what I care about. That's why I'm here. I don't have to work another day in my life. I can literally pack everything up right now, close the door, fly out of my private plane back home, never work another day in my life. I do not have to spend another minute with you. I care deeply about this profession. Okay? I was 15 years old when I had my chiropractic experience. I believe in chiropractic. But I think this is ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous that 6% of the people are seeing chiropractors. When how effective we are. I know how effective we are. I treated patients. I was surprised how effective chiropractic is after my first, second year in practice, and I couldn't believe the masses were not just knocking down the doors. I couldn't believe it. And then I went out and studied. Why? And that's when I found out all this stuff. So, yes, I care. Yeah, I'm 40 years old. I'm going to go ahead and do this for about another 25 years. And by the time I'm done, I expect this number to be up here. That's my goal. Get this number up here. Where 70 to 80% of the people routinely choose and pick chiropractic care, and they don't think twice about it. And they trust you and they believe in you. Not what's going on in today's society. Okay? So, this is what happens and where we're at economically. So here's what he doesn't know. That's what he's going to need to do to get that business. That's what you're going to need to do. Here's what he doesn't know. How many new patients does this usually represent when you don't know anything about marketing and you don't know anything about sales? It usually represents about 6 to 8 new patients a month. That's what it will represent usually. You will get some business. When you go somewhere and open your doors, you will get some business. What business? The very small percentage of people that are looking. That's what you'll share with the other chiropractors in that area. You will get some. And you'll get a few new patients and you'll think you're on your way. Here's what usually happens. 8 new patients, a retention of 12. Retention of 12. 96 patient visits, divide that by 4, is 24. Usually, the market forces will give you between 20 and 40 patient visits a week. That's what it'll give you. You will get this. You don't have to worry about knowing anything else. Go out there, you'll get 1 or 2 or 3 new patients a month. They'll stay for their 4, 5, 6 visits. You will. And in the first month or 2, you'll be excited because you actually got some business. And little do you know that it stays that way until you change. Until you know how to change one of these dynamics right here. Get them to stay longer, or know how to go over here and get more people. Or know some marketing to get more people of the people that are actively choosing. You're going to have to know something different to change your results, to make your results different. And that's usually what you're not willing to sacrifice. Most of you aren't willing to sacrifice what you need to sacrifice to get what you want. See, all of you want this. There's very few people in here that are willing to sacrifice this to get this. Most of you want to sacrifice this to get this. That's how you guys are. And here's what you don't know. To get this, guess how much you're going to have to sacrifice? This. That's what you don't know. It's called exchanges. You're going to have to give an exchange in abundance. If you want to make $100,000, you're going to have to do $150,000, $200,000. Not 100, not 60, not 50. Your exchange system, what you're willing to sacrifice for what you want, is incongruent right now. And you don't know that. And you will get the results of your actions. You're actually getting them right now. You're just not accepting responsibility for them. You're blaming everything and everybody else. The market is giving you exactly what you deserve right now. You just don't want to believe it. It's going to be better somewhere else. The number one reason for personal failure, in life, rationalization. That's because, but it'll be better when. That's the number one reason for personal failure. So, now, does this make sense? Does this all make sense? Okay, how it works? Let's do a little exercise real quick. write down, what do you think you're going to need to, how much money are you going to need a month just to pay your bills? I'm not talking about going to Disney World. No Cancun scuba diving, which I should be in the next 6 months. Write down how much money you're going to need to pay your bills. Rent, food, pay your student loans off. Yes, they do track you down. By the way, the best money Paul Hollern ever spent on Paul Hollern was the student loans. The student loans allowed me to do what I do. It allowed me to make the money that I make. Those student loans were invaluable. You're not even looking at your student loans right. You see them as debt. To me, they were an investment. They gave me the vehicle to become a multimillionaire. That's what the student loans did for me. I was glad to be able to pay those. Okay, so you can pay your student loans, your mortgage, your rent, your utilities, entertainment,
Well, student loans
all your girlfriends, all that stuff.
Well, student loans has been used for a business, as a business expense.
Forget business,
Okay,
but include student loans in your payment because you got to pay them.
That'd probably be about $5,000 a month. Right?
So how much? He's at 5. Where are you at? 3. Okay, let's just use 3, maybe 3 and 5. Okay, so $3,000 a month times 12 months is $36,000. $36,000. By the way, you can't even pay overhead at $36,000, can you? The only way he would even be able to make it in business is subcontracting. He wouldn't even be able to pay his bills at $36,000 a year in overhead. He couldn't afford it. So the only way he could do it is by working through somebody else's office and giving them 50% subcontract. So multiply that times 2. That's $72,000 just to live. He needs $72,000 a year, just the bare minimum to pay his bills. 50% goes to the chiropractor. He's working out of their office. He gets to keep the other 50%. How many new patients is he going to need a month at a 12 retention? This is it. $72,000 divided by 12 months. That's $6,000 a month is what he's going to need. Divide that by a $40 per visit. That gives you how many patient visits he's going to need to see at a $40 per visit. That's $150. Divide that by his retention, and that'll tell him how many new patients he'll need. Divide that by 12, he needs 12.5. How many a month are you getting now?
Maybe 4 or 5.
That's why 11 out of 12 businesses go bankrupt. Now, if his actions don't change, what's going to happen to his results 6 months from now? Same. So he needs this, and he's getting this, and what's the end result? Bankruptcy. And then what does he do? Within 2 years, what does he do? Gets out of chiropractic. Gets out of chiropractic. Or lowers his goals. I really didn't want that big house anyway. He makes it easier on himself. Let's face it, it's easier to lie to ourselves, isn't it? I really didn't want that big house. That guy that's seeing 200 patient visits a week, he's really ripping off those patients anyway. I give my patients quality care, all 20 of them a week. But it's quality. The stuff you will tell yourself. You don't think I've heard it all? I've heard it all. So, that's what you need. You can't even afford an office on your own. $36,000 a year won't even pay for an office. You have to subcontract. At 50%, you got to make $72,000. A 12 retention, that's 12.5 new patients. And that's just paying your bills. You're at 4 now. What are you going to do to get to 12.5?
Market.
Well, it probably won't be me. Because you have to be accepted into my program. You don't just apply and get in. So none of you are in right now. So, you're going to have to market. What do you know about marketing?
Just little different. That's all.
All right. These are the realities. This is where it's at. In other words, what am I trying to say to you? Is there stuff that maybe you don't know? Yeah. Are there skills level maybe that you have no idea about right now? Yeah. That's all I'm saying. So let's move on to the next subject here. All we're showing you is how the market works. By the way, how many of you know chiropractors that have graduated in the last year or two that this is exactly what's happening to them? And maybe they're taking a part-time job to help pay for their bills now. You guys know anybody? You guys have any friends like that? Do you guys have any friends?
I know a chiropractor. He's been out since the 70s.
I don't want to go back that far.
She's working as a nurse.
I don't want to
and
go.
a chiropractor.
I don't want to go back far. I was eating dinner about a month ago in Louisville. We were talking, and the waiter overheard our conversation. I was talking business. The waiter goes, "You guys chiropractors?" I go, "Yeah, why?" He goes, "I'm a chiropractor." I go, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Well, I graduated and I practiced in Chicago for a while, but that deal didn't work out. So I made a deal with a friend here in Louisville, Kentucky, and that deal didn't work out. But I got a good deal in Dallas, Texas that I'm going to next week. But I want you to know I'm the crazy one. I'm the weirdo. I'm the whacked out one." What's he doing? Rationalizing. He's chasing. You see, in Louisville, Kentucky, we're getting rich. There's people in Chicago that are getting rich in chiropractic. It's not necessarily, it's not in Dallas, it's in your mind. It's what you know. It's not where you go, it's what you know. It's your skill level, it's your ability to create it. Because the market is so big, if you know how, if you don't, that's bad news. So this is the natural forces that happens. Why does it happen? Because a lot of it is you. We talked about what you do. What were the 9 things that you do wrong? We talked about those. Number 1,